eligible for what I've been able to do with the
Let's show the President will say, I thank you for all you do for benefit of the American Union movement.
Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
You got, I was telling the group to brief me earlier.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
What's wrong, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and it is abandoned ship. That's right, over the weekend, massive moves to usher Joe Biden off stage left as new reports around Parkinson's have emerged. Some people claiming that's what was going on Air Force One. Without evidence, I'll say this, but the doctor visits have evidence, so we're going to look at that. Stephen King, one of the wokest of woke, jumping off the Biden train and immediately getting dunked on by the entirety of the internet. It's Monday morning, July 8th, 2024. It's going to be an exciting week. The RNC is next week. I'll be there every day trying to do lots of collabs. I'll be live today at 1 Eastern with 6 Hexenhammer over on the Mean Green site. Hopefully I'll see you there. We'll be talking about all the world's news. Let's talk about this story, though, because it is wild. I want to start with the funny. Before we get to the sad. By the way, are you enjoying the video? If you are, please do leave a like on it. It helps immensely. And if you haven't yet followed or subscribed to the channel, wherever you like to watch my videos, I would greatly appreciate that. It's hard enough to get discovered out there, to find your viewers. So following or subscribing does actually help a lot. Stephen King wrote this morning at 6:40 a.m. First thing in the morning, he wakes up and says, Joe Biden has been a fine president, but it's time for him, in the interests of the America he so clearly loves, to announce he will not run for re-election. 13,000 likes, currently in the midst of a massive ratio. You see Elon Musk getting right in there. Even Stephen King is voting for Trump. You see loony liberals are as predictable as the sun coming up. He said, just so you know, the Democrat news have their marching orders. They're going to be going after Joe Biden this week to try and get him out of the race. And you see, obviously, lots of people in the replies, people jumping from a sinking ship. Nope, I'm deeply disappointed in you. He has had more support from voters now than ever. Why would you all want to do that? The fact of the matter is, if Joe Biden dropped out of the race now, he would lose Wisconsin, as well as a few other states where his name could not be removed or could not have a new name added to the ballot. But 2 of those states Trump was likely to win anyway, but he would definitely lose. The Democrats would lose Wisconsin if he chose to drop out. The quote tweets are an absolute goldmine of people dunking on Stephen King. My money's still on Punchy De Niro to be the last one off the sinking ship. Sworn behavior is endlessly fascinating to me. Here's ALX saying now he's lost Stephen King. I for one, I don't want Joe Biden to leave. I want him to stay. I want him to be the candidate. Dance with the girl you brought. You could see Joe Biden now, his Twitter account essentially completely unusable. Obviously, we know that Joe Biden is not doing the tweeting. But this morning, he sent a desperate letter to other Democrats. You can see a lot of the replies saying, don't give up, Joe, fight on. It's just a stutter. You're the sharpest man ever. Patriots.win in there with, even I'm considering voting for Joe. Just stick in there. It's become a meme that people are just saying like, hey, we don't want you to drop out, man. We love you, Joe. We love you. This article or this letter that he sent, obviously hilarious. You see desperate Biden pens letter to congressional Democrats who want him to drop re-election bid. He's saying he's firmly committed. President Biden insisted he is firmly committed to staying in the 2024 presidential race in a wordy letter to congressional Democrats Monday, which made no mention of his disastrous debate performance or concerns over his age and or cognitive health. In the letter, he instead largely focused on going after former President Donald Trump, coming after 4 more House Democrats called for the 81-year-old commander-in-chief to end his re-election bid following a private call with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Sunday. Now that you've returned from your July 4th recess, I want you all to know that despite the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I am firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end, and to beating Trump, Biden wrote in his letter addressed to, quote, fellow Democrats. Again, I've said it before. I've said it again. We're going to talk about it on the live stream today, which I hope I'll see you on over on Quartercast on YouTube or on the Rumbler. He's not dropping out. These people do not give up power willingly. It's been a cope. Now, unless he has a legitimate medical condition, which we're going to get to in a second here, this Parkinson's story, he's not dropping out. His wife will never, Dr. Jill, who, by the way, is not a medical doctor. Dr. Jill is not going to let him. He wrote, I've had extensive conversations with leadership of the party, elected officials, rank and file members, and most importantly, Democratic voters over the past 10 days or so. I've heard the concerns that people have, their good faith fears and worries at what is at stake in this election. Well, democracy's on the ballot, isn't it? Or decency. The president has faced a firestorm of concerns from fellow Democrats after a CNN debate against Trump back on June 27th, saw him freezing up, stumbling over his words, and often failing to answer moderators' questions without making embarrassing gaffes. He faced his largest wave of criticism on Sunday, where Jerry Nadler, Adam Smith, Mark Takano, Joseph Morell, all reportedly voiced their angst about the future of the Biden campaign due to his debate performance. And others in the party, including Representative Lloyd Doggett, has also called on Biden to end his campaign. I mean, these are people inside the building. The calls are coming from inside the building. I mean, I don't know what that must feel like, but you saw him, he went on Morning Joe this morning, had an absolute meltdown, trying to sound all fiery. I'm sure they make the call very early in the morning so that he's with it. And again, look, I'm still a human. Joe Biden is still a human, I think. It's rough. It's rough to watch. If this guy were in any other position, I'd feel bad for him. But because he's the president, he's the guy with the codes, he's the guy with his finger on this button, I don't feel bad for him. I feel rage towards the media that has covered up for him. His fellow Democrats who have covered up for him. Republicans in the Uniparty that quietly acquiesced to him.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again,
Joe Biden unravels on live TV.
the American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for 2 reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people.
Rebuild it? I thought Bidenomics has already been crushing it.
Give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance. Number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break.
First of all, if 0 black people voted for Donald Trump, he would probably still win. This idea that the quote-unquote black vote is so important is bizarre to me. It doesn't matter. You just need people to vote for you. Stop viewing people as a monolith.
Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more.
The elites? Sounds like he's going full Donald Trump. This sounds like some sort of conspiracy theory.
But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me in the convention.
What? Now, here's some interesting news about, the ultimate questions. Alzheimer's, dementia, early onset. This is something that all people, for the most part, will have to, most people as they get older will have cognitive decline. That's part of getting older. Dementia is a different level of that. Alzheimer's is a different level of that. It's a disease that makes that decline much more rapid. anybody who's, had a family member, afflicted with this knows how brutal it is to see. This, to me, looks a lot like my grandma 3 or 4 years before Alzheimer's finally, took what was left of her memory. And, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying I know. But a top Washington, D.C. neurologist had a meeting with President Biden's personal doctor at the White House earlier this year, visitor logs reviewed by the Post. Dr. Kevin Kennard, a Parkinson's disease expert at Walter Reed Medical Center, met with Kevin O'Connor and 2 others at the White House clinic back on January 17th, according to records which emerged as questions began to swirl. I'm sure these records were leaked. Dr. John E. Atwood, cardiologist at Walter Reed, also in the 5 p.m. meeting. Maybe they were talking about something else. I don't know. We don't know. But you certainly see President Biden's physician met with Parkinson's disease specialist in White House. Then you see this tweet come out. Again, this is an uncorroborated story. I cannot be more clear about that. I don't know who this individual is. U.S. legal commentator on royal issues with emphasis on customs and law. I mean, I don't know. But this is what they said. Over the weekend, there was a rumor going around that there was some sort of medical emergency on Air Force One that was unsubstantiated. So, again, this is not substantiated, but this is going, it already has 1 million impressions on Twitter. I waited to say anything until I got 3 confirmations. I represent and have represented the health crews on Air Force One as part of my role as general counsel. Anyway, I have verified that there was a medical emergency on Air Force One. Our president has Parkinson's and he was hallucinating. He had an episode on the plane and they had to give him antipsychotics, so he looked fine when the plane landed. Again, there is no evidence of this, but it sure seems like this narrative is popping up, This came out on July 7th, yesterday. I have hesitated to release this information because of the controversy it may cause, but if this is what's going on, as a country, we need to deal with it and not hide it. Anyone who has served our country deserves better treatment than this during his or her final illness. I may not agree with our politicians here, but this is not an appropriate treatment of a Parkinson's patient, and that's why I'm speaking out. And this issue may well come up with the monarch, so I'm not, if it's not a political issue, it's a healthcare issue. And it's about how we deal positively with aging and the shifts of life. Now, again, I don't know. This is a lot of speculation. Laura Loomer originally broke this story. Then they cut to footage of him, Joe Biden walking off the plane looking totally fine. So, again, are they starting to plant, are they starting to plant these stories? I don't know. You can see in the polls, Trump just surging. Now, there hasn't been a new poll ran since July 2nd, which was almost a week ago. So, right now, the Real Clear polling average has Trump up 3.3, which is certainly within the margin of error. So there's nothing really to get excited about there. You saw some of those polls last week post-debate, Trump up bigly, but, it doesn't really matter. In Wisconsin, I keep seeing these articles about how Biden's closing the gap in Wisconsin. Well, it doesn't look like that. On polling that ended on July 5th, they show Biden up +3. So they do show a bit of a Biden bump here in Wisconsin, which is interesting. Pretty disappointing for my state, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see, yes, he met with Parkinson. You see Democrats are going to get President Biden off the ticket. I don't know. I remain extraordinarily skeptical that Biden would ever willingly allow himself to be removed from the ticket. Then we have radio station. Biden did an interview, an embarrassing interview where the radio host asked pre-scripted questions. They ended up firing the radio host because she was working with the Democratic, operatives to make sure that they only asked pre-screened questions. Embarrassing. She then went on to admit it, and the radio station fired her. Biden radio interview scandal escalates. Radio host fired for allowing White House to set questions, even though the president still had major gaffes. That's where he called himself a black woman or something like that. It's going to be a wild week, and I expect the full-scale attack on Biden to increase. I hope you were informed by this video. If you were, please do leave a like on it before you go. And if you haven't yet, subscribe or follow down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.